I was lord of this place before the crows and rats made it their domain.
And welcome back to more Darkest Dungeon. This is episode 16, week 36, getting underway. And we're starting off with a random town event called the Lost Shipment. Yet another cargo vessel has sunk off the coast, and the surviving crew have proven distressingly evasive concerning the particulars of this latest nautical nightmare. Okay, so this is just a random town event. It happens to be one of the detrimental ones, but it's not that big a deal. Like it says, supplies and provisions have been halved for the next quest, so instead of there being, for example, 24 food available to buy from the provisioning screen, there will only be 12. Instead of 9 holy water available, there will only be maybe 4 or 5, etc. So you could imagine this could be a pretty serious concern if you were going to do a long mission or one of the epic Crimson Court missions, which we have yet to see. But that's not the case here. We're just doing a medium, and it happens to be a boss dungeon. And in my experience, the boss dungeons, while sometimes they have particularly cruel possibilities for which room the boss might be in, they're nonetheless not very long dungeons. Okay, and as for our group, the Crimson Hand, Devatron, we've seen this one before. Hellion, Crusader, Highwayman, and Vestal, and specifically going after the Necromancer in the ruins. Now, if you recall last time, we used Dismas as a substitute for a second Crusader, as I prefer to do leapfrogging Crusaders in between the Hellion and Vestal for this particular boss. And you probably also remember, much to your chagrin, the rather long-winded explanation I provided as to why I chose Highwayman to substitute for a second Crusader, as opposed to any number of other heroes that were available at the time. So given all that, you might point out, hey, there are other Crusaders available now. In the early weeks, you just hadn't gotten a second one to show up on the stagecoach yet, and that's why you had to come up with a substitute. But now I can see over on the right that you have Duval and Tornabutt, etc. Why are you still using Dismas instead of just taking one of the other Crusaders? Well, the reason pertains to hero level in relation to dungeon level, right? If you recall, when we were doing all our apprentice level dungeons, I had to save certain heroes because if they got too much experience, they would end up leveling out of the apprentice level dungeons. In other words, they would get too high a level and wouldn't be able to enter the apprentice level dungeons. And while right now we have graduated from the apprentice level dungeons and quests and we're on to the veteran level, the constraints still apply until we reach the champion level. Okay, so in other words, if I use either Duval or Tornabutt here, by the time we get through all the veteran level quests, there'll be 1 or 2 at the end that they'll have leveled out of and they won't be able to participate in. And then I'd have to go recruit another one and level them up, etc., etc. So in other words, I'm saving the other Crusaders' experience so they'll be available on other bosses. This composition worked just fine last time through. Reynald and Dismas are friends, etc. We know the drill. We're ready to go. The Crimson Hand, Devatron. Let's get in there and hunt down this Necromancer.
I entertained a delegation of experts from overseas, eager to plumb the depths of their knowledge and share with them certain techniques and alchemical processes I had found to yield wondrous and terrifying results. Having learned all I could from my visiting guests, I murdered them as they slept. A devil walks these halls. Only the mad or the desperate go in search of him.
Alright, so here we go into the ruins after the Necromancer. And recall last time we did this, we were chasing down the Necromancer apprentice. And perhaps one possible meta-story explanation, if you will, as to why there are multiple versions of the Necromancer could be gleaned from this latest, rather harrowing Ancestor's journal entry that we just heard prior to entering the ruins.
Packs laden with loot are often low on supplies. Eradicated. Press this advantage. Give them no quarter. The bigger the beast, the greater the glory.
Okay, so getting back to our meta-story theory crafting, the idea is something like the Ancestor invited all these necromancy experts here, and then once he learned everything he could, he murdered them by his own admission. And then perhaps he tried to reanimate them, raise them from the dead. And because they were necromancers in life, perhaps they're necromancers in undeath as well.
The match is struck. A blazing star is born.
Now, as we get to re-adventuring in these four main dungeon areas, the Ruins, Warrens, Cove, and Weald, and we have to face different versions of these same bosses over and over again, as you can imagine, our meta-story theory crafting will be put to the test as to why we have to do these same bosses over and over again. But ultimately, it doesn't bother me too much, as there's always some kind of explanation that we can come up with.
Quickly the tide turns. Monstrous size has no intrinsic merit, unless inordinate exsanguination be considered a virtue. Back to the pit. Another one falls. Seize this momentum. Push on to the task's end.
Okay, so some nasty new enemy types. Gargoyle and Slavering Ghoul, Devatron.
A singular strike. In Radiance, may we find victory. Continue the onslaught. Destroy them all. As the fiend falls, a faint hope blossoms. Be wary. Triumphant pride precipitates a dizzying fall.
Okay, so a lucky draw getting an Eldritch Altar there, enabling us to use holy water on it and remove a negative quirk. And then here we get a scouting check, which allows us to see that the boss is not down this way. So that'll save us some time and resources.
Be gone, fiend. Executed with impunity. Another abomination cleansed from our lands. Success so clearly in view. Or is it merely a trick of the light?
Alright, so some really nice stuff thus far. You can see just how strong the group is in here. Having upgraded weapons, armor, skills, having great trinkets, etc. is really helping out a lot.
Gathered close in tenuous firelight and uneasy companionship.
So the boss is just one room away, so we decided to camp. We're going to go with Bandit Sense, prevents a nighttime ambush, and then Unparalleled Finesse on Dismiss. It increases his dodge, speed, and both accuracy and damage with melee attacks. And recall that his riposte attacks are melee, so that'll apply to them as well. And then last, we're going to increase Croc's damage by 25%.
The way is lit. The path is clear. We require only the strength to follow it. As the light gains purchase, spirits are lifted, and purpose is made clear. Their formation is broken. Maintain the offensive. Confidence surges as the enemy crumbles. A victory. Perhaps the turning point.
All right, so absolutely no problems there. Nobody needs healing or stress healing. We're just about to the boss. We're going to top off the torch, add a little holy water, and then it's on to the Necromancer.
The light, the promise of safety. Towering, fierce, terrible, nightmare-made material. Well struck. Precision and power. Devastating blow. The wounds of war can be healed, but never hidden. No living sinew to actuate them. Will these walking bones finally fail?
All right, big time, Devatron. Too easy. Alright, that'll do it for the Necromancer. Pretty easy run all in all, even without the second Crusader. Not a bad haul with the quest reward, over 10,000 gold. We got a blueprint in there, a nice leper mask. Looks like 8 XP for everybody. Off guard, that's not good for Croc. We're going to have to remove that. Dismas got a disease. Ruins Tactician, pretty good. Soft, very bad. We got to get rid of that. This is the darkest dungeon, Devatron. We are underway with the veteran level encounters. Hope you're enjoying it. We'll see you in the next episode.